Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to take a bunch of lighthearted questions from Twitter and answer them. This is just in case you're bored tonight or tomorrow and you need something to do. This is also going to double as our 500,000 subscribers video because that just happened as well. Thank you for that, by the way. So, anyway, let's just dive in here and see what we have. These are all supposed to be lighthearted. I don't know if it turned out that way, and we'll go from there. If there's anything political or that's just a downer, we're going to skip it. All right, so Disney princesses, Curious George, Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street, Magic School Bus. What other children's shows and movies are important to you, and what lessons do you take from them? All of them. All of them. G.I. Joe, Kim Possible. I think anything that spurs imagination spurs critical thought. And I think that the messages contained in most children's shows are some that maybe adults need to be reminded of from time to time. You know, back when there was still the belief that the world can be better because it can be, and you can help do it. And that's the message in a whole lot of shows. And I think that that's important for kids too. That aspect of empowerment. What's your favorite me time activity that you do for fun to cheer yourself up that isn't talking with us internet people? That is my me time activity. Prior to this year, I like to go on road trips and travel and do a whole bunch of stuff I'm not doing right now because it's a mess. What's your favorite fiction book series? Probably anything by Bernard Cromwell. The person who wrote what became The Last Kingdom on Netflix and the BBC. There's a whole bunch of different series, and almost all of them are pretty good. Let's see. Favorite stuffed animal growing up. This isn't a joke when I say this. I had a stuffed pumpkin. Not the one on the back shelf. But, yeah, I had a stuffed pumpkin. And in case you're wondering why we're not doing this in the shop, it's raining. The weather outside is frightful. Do your kids know what a big deal you're becoming? What do they think? They don't know that because I don't know that. I mean, I understand the numbers, and I get that, but there's still an element that just I don't know, and I don't know how to take it, to be completely honest. Recipes, cooking for those who are trying to save. I would look into Irish cuisine. That is, a lot of it is born out of poverty. You end up using a lot of the same ingredients, so it helps, but it tastes different, so you don't suffer palate burnout. I mean, I think that would be a good place to start. Who's your favorite artist? That's a broad question. I'm going to say Ansel Adams, just off the top of my head, as a photographer. I'm going to skip that one because I would end up making It's a Wonderful Life very political and probably a downer. This may sound more serious than the tone in which I'm asking, so try to take this lightheartedly because that's how I mean it right now. Why are you doing this for Xmas instead of solstice? Cultural norms among the majority of the audience, the majority of you guys. I don't know if you're asking this because you are familiar with some of my more earthy beliefs or this is just random. Generally, on other holidays, you don't have negative impacts from people being alone. It's really that simple. Bo, I need your top 5 all-time favorite country albums and or artists. I could go on about that all day, so we're going to rephrase that and keep it simple. Who is your favorite country artist, and why is it Steve Earle? What is your favorite breed of horse? I don't have one. I like horses' personalities. Pirate, the most recent addition, is really because she was just very playful and interested in me particularly for some reason, followed me around, and we became buddies. Not really so much about the breed. What are your thoughts on balancing providing mutual aid and the state using that as an excuse to cut services but not taxes for real people? I don't know that there is a balancing act there. See, to me, the theory is that the use of mutual aid and community networks would reduce reliance on government. Therefore, those services wouldn't be needed, and eventually they would get cut. And realistically, government is not going to cut taxes when they do that. The difference is effectiveness and bang for your buck. That's one of those uncomfortable phases that we will have to go through to get to a better society, I believe. Realistically, if the government was to be the sort that would reduce taxes when needs for services declined, it would be responsive enough to the point where we wouldn't need to engage in mutual aid. So yeah, I don't know that there is a balancing act. I think that's something that is going to occur, and when it does, I actually think it will help speed things along because people will realize the inefficiency. But, I mean, people have known how inefficient the government is in a lot of ways for a long time. So, do you cook? What's your best dish? What is your favorite treat? I do cook. I would say shepherd's pie is what I do the best. I don't know. What is my favorite treat? Oreos, and those just come out of a bag. I don't cook those. If you were to frame the story of how the Grinch stole Christmas as political, how would you do it? What Christmas song do you hate the most? Eggnog, yes or no? Yes or gross? I would say that the Grinch story is political. At its heart, it's a story about bullying and the haves and the have-nots. So, I mean, to me, it is a political story. I mean, realistically, when the world is the way it is, everything is political in some way. I don't know that I have a Christmas song that I truly despise. Maybe the one from that movie where they played it constantly in the background. The British movie, and I can't remember. Love Actually, maybe was the name of it. I actually have the response that the characters have in that movie. Eggnog, yes or gross? Depends on how much coffee I had before I had the eggnog. And by coffee, I mean coffee with the other ingredients. Generally not something I love, but if I've already started, it'll be all right. What is your most cherished accomplishment? That's a tough one. Probably something that I wouldn't talk about on YouTube. Realistically, I don't know exactly, but my guess would be that it falls into that category of stuff that I did when I was younger. The wife and I are curious to know if your collection of socks is anywhere as prolific as your collection of shirts. No, it is not. Is Santa real? Yes, of course. Do you put the milk in the bowl before the cereal? No, of course not. That's wrong. What cereal is it? Some kind of kid cereal, Lucky Charms. I don't know, something like that. Baroness stream win? Baroness is in a couple videos. There's a video where she is sitting by me when I'm by a fire. I'll try to find a link and put it down there. As far as a stream, Baroness is, smart, as I've pointed out, but she's not exactly friendly. I don't know that. Yeah, she's not actually a nice puppy, to be honest. How can we send you physical mail, like a package? Well, now I'm nervous. I have cool stuff I know for a fact you will like, and I guess you cannot find it in America. Also, please release a clean plate of your workshop background. Going to use these in Zoom meetings. Actually, I had a couple of people ask for the photo of the shop. I will try to do that soon. As far as a mailing address, it's P.O. Box 490, Sneads, Florida, 32460. Sneads, which is S-N-E-A-D-S. What's your favorite all-American food? New York strip. What's your favorite non-American food? Paella. What did you do to stay positive when you, shall we say, had a lot of time to yourself to think? There's a movie called A Bronx Tale. And in that movie, somebody's asked that question, and it's basically, you can do three things. You can lift weights, play cards, or get into trouble. I read. And I did. I read. I mean, I worked out a little bit, but mainly I spent my time reading. Did you ever expect to be a celebrity? No. Given the fact that I tried to keep a low profile most of my life. No, I absolutely did not. And I am not used to it. When somebody recognizes me, I'm still at that point where I don't know if they want to buy me a drink or hit me with the bottle. So I'm very awkward in that. When can we see Baroness and Destro in a video? Destro, maybe. He would hang out. But let's see. What are the most useful items to stock up on for relief disaster packages when you are out applying Rule 303? Depends on the situation, obviously, like climate, stuff like that. If it's cold, people always need socks. Always. Doesn't matter what's going on, they always need socks. Generally, you want food, water, fire, shelter, first aid, and a knife in a kit. A lot of times, hygiene stuff is left out. Typically, feminine hygiene is almost always forgotten. And then there's also, if you're talking about larger stuff, it changes each time. Like in the last hurricane, we had a bunch of people run out of toilet paper, which now everybody in the country is familiar with how bad that is. But I would imagine because of that, next time we won't, and everybody will have tons. So there's a historical learning curve that goes along with it. Gooseneck or bumper? I'm going to assume this is about trailer hitches, and I'm going to say gooseneck. What's your morning routine? Because I married an angel, I normally get coffee, like right as I wake up, sometimes even in bed. And then I read the news, and then I plan my day from there. That's my normal routine. Q&A with you and Bo's wife together, please. That may happen at some point. In fact, we thought about doing it for this one, but it's the holidays, so. Ribbon candy, good or only for grandparents? I'm gonna say only for grandparents. Can you give a little of your background for newer subscribers? There's a video. I just always like to direct the people to it because it's more in depth than anything I would do when I'm briefly asked a question. Let's talk about 100,000 subscribers. that actually answers all the questions that people actually want answered when they ask that. I will say that most of the stories are not accurate. There may be some truth to some of them, but they are not accurate in the way that they are out there, if that's in relation to anything in particular. If you had to move to any other state, which would it be and why? Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee. Mountains or the ocean. I'm very extreme when it comes to that. I always love your history lessons. Hopefully, if the rain stops, you're going to get one tomorrow about the Christmas truce. If not, look it up. It's a cool story. Any good predictions for 2021? I'm going to just hope for a return to normalcy of some sort. That's the only prediction I have. And that the second channel will go live at some point. I was hoping for it to be right after the new year, which with the way this has been going, I'm going to say the end of January. Let's see. What do you think about Mason Silva winning Skater of the Year 2020? I'm wondering if this is the same person. I've been asked about this multiple times. I think maybe there's a photo of me with a skateboard at some point, but that just, so you know, that was like 30 years ago. How many exactly t-shirts do you have? 1,312. I have no idea. I have no clue. A lot, and it's an ever-growing pile. What other work do you do in your workshop? Woodworking, mechanical, or just fixing stuff? What's your most used tool? Right now, honestly, I spend all of my time in there making videos. There was a time that I used it for the gardening stuff. We grow a lot of stuff here. And basic carpentry. I do a little bit of metalworking, but not much. It is more as needed. I would say the most used tool is probably the nail gun. Just a guess. Did the Founding Fathers consciously list life before liberty and the pursuit of happiness? I've never thought about that before, but it would make sense that they would. I mean, that does seem to be a descending list. Is cereal soup? Yes. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes. Are hot dog sandwiches? Also yes. Does pineapple belong on pizza? Anything belongs on pizza if you're brave enough. Not particularly my choice, but yeah. Pineapple on pizza, an abomination or an extremely wrong choice? I'm going to say a wrong choice, but yeah. That's personal taste, I would guess. What is your least favorite thing about this holiday season? Not sure if this is specific. Generally, I do not like the commercialization of the whole idea. And I wish people understood how the holidays evolved and all of that stuff. I think that would be a good unifying thing to find common roots in a lot of them. If you're talking about this year in particular, the whole public health thing, just making it an absolute pain. That would be high on my list. Where do you find all your t-shirts, and which are you most fond of? The ones that I'm most fond of are ones you will probably never see in a video. A lot of my shirts have political connotations to them, and some of them feature language that I would not put on the channel. As far as where they come from, some are in our Teespring store, and most of the other ones my wife brings home. And it's like, look at this. And I'll be honest, you know, as much as she complains about all the shirts on Twitter, she's responsible for like half of them. So, I mean, you can have sympathy, but not too much. How do you have your coffee tea? Coffee by the gallon. Like, I make Lorelai and Rory look like Mormons. And in any way, I just, yeah, I drink a lot of coffee, probably way too much. How much do you water your beard? How much sunlight does it need? I do absolutely nothing to my beard. The reason I have a beard is not out of fashion statement. It's that I don't want to deal with shaving. So if I had an extensive grooming routine for it, it would defeat the purpose. Best Xmas gift you've gotten? When I was a kid, I got the USS Flag. It's a G.I. Joe playset, and it's like the size of a dining room table. It's huge. It's an aircraft carrier. It's big enough to like lay down on. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And given the fact that my dad was enlisted Army at the time, I know that that was something that they put a lot of effort into getting because it wasn't cheap. So I think maybe that was the best. I don't know, because I think that would change by age. Right now, the best gift I could get would be like a vacation to somewhere warm. If you could debate any historical figure, living or dead, real or fiction, who would you choose and what topics would y'all debate? I'm going to say Thomas Jefferson, and it's not, it's really just more of an interrogation. I have so many questions. Was it really about political expediency? Was it about money? Why were some of these things done when he referred to him as a hideous blot? There's like one of the people, at least in American history, that is so contradictory, that could have done so much good and did some, but not as much as he could have. And I have questions. Does the shed ever get too hot, cold to film in? What do you do when it does? Temperature normally isn't much of a problem. It's normally rain because it has a tin roof. The shop is designed for Florida. So the light you see in the back, sometimes that's not like track lighting. That's actually sunlight. There's gaps up near the roof to let hot air out, so it stays pretty cool even in there, even when it's like 100 degrees. That does present a little bit of a problem in the winter because it does not retain heat at all. But I have a little heater out there that I will like let it warm the place up and then turn it off right before I film because it's loud. And you guys generally, y'all have said y'all like the ambient noise of the grasshoppers and crickets and frogs and birds and whatever. Cake or pie? Pie. Do you think the U.S. and the world will eventually move down and left? Yes. I honestly believe that is the... I think that is the inevitable future, unless things go horribly wrong. I think that's where we will head if we are smart and if we work to do that. The most amount of freedom for the most people with the most equality. That seems like it should be the goal. And I think eventually that is where we will go. Hopefully we get there before we face just irrevocable negative outcomes from past behavior. Of all of the places you have visited, which was your favorite and why? That's a tough question. I'm going to say stay in the U.S. on this one. I'm going to say, I don't even know then. New Orleans. I went to New Orleans prior to Katrina, and I really enjoyed the atmosphere and the way, just the way people were. It was unique in the sense that it was still a very small town feel in a large major city. Now, from my understanding is that After Katrina, things were changed, and it doesn't have that anymore. I haven't really been back for any length of time since then, though, so I don't know for a fact. Do you put potato chips inside your sandwiches? Not generally. I'm going to rephrase that, and I'm going to be kind of vague in this answer. Santa's effect on kids, positive or negative? I'm going to say positive. I understand some of the concerns that people have about it, but at the same time, anything that sparks imagination sparks critical thought later. And I think overall, I do not see much of a difference between that and Halloween, and that or superheroes or anything like that. So as far if I'm catching this question, let's see, New Year's resolutions, please. For me, I don't know. I would like to start running again. I say that, and I know full well that it's really unlikely that I start. Get the second channel actually up and running. That would be my New Year's resolution. Tell me a story about a group of people that saw something wrong, took action, and corrected that wrong. I could tell hundreds of those. A recent one is after Michael here. You had a whole bunch of people who were very, let's just call them distanced politically, come together to help people in Panama City and the surrounding areas because they were in a really bad way. That hurricane didn't get the coverage I think it really should have. There were parts of that city that were just flat when it was done. And people who generally would not associate came together to make stuff happen and get things to people that needed them. The staging area that was used is a facility that helps vets with PTSD, and they use horses to do it. It's a really novel concept. It's really cool. I would be willing to bet that many of the people involved in that project have Trump flags. I don't know that because we didn't talk politics, because that would have been bad. You know, you don't want focused on the mission at hand. But given the nature of the event, nobody cared about any of that. We had people that needed baby formula. We had people that needed all kinds of stuff, and we had to get it to them. And I think that's one of those moments where not only people corrected something that was wrong, but it shows that there are some things that can unite everybody. How'd you meet your wife? She came by the studio and with her mother, and I flirted with her, and she did not respond. I'm not a pushy person, so I stopped. As they were leaving, her mom was like, she's really preoccupied today, and probably didn't even notice. So when she came back by, I didn't have everything ready. And I'm sitting there putting it together, and of course that day she happens to be in a hurry, and she's like, hey, you couldn't have had this done already? And I'm like, well, I was hoping to have a little bit of time to talk to you. And she's like, yeah, how's that working out? Fantastic, okay. And yeah, so when she starts to leave, she looks over her shoulder and she's like, yeah, you have my number. I'm like, okay. Now, she called me prior to me calling her because she had been overchanged. There are some people who believe that may be a good way to determine somebody's integrity at some point. I'm not saying that happened, but either way, she called back. And I was like, hey, why don't you give me that back over dinner or lunch or breakfast or coffee? And she settled on coffee. And then for like 2 weeks, I got text messages explaining why she couldn't make it. And I guess a couple of times I was unavailable. And I was like, this is either the most elaborate blow-off in history or we're really busy. You just let me know when you're available. And then the next day, she stopped by and brought me coffee. And that's when it started. I think we had lunch finally like a week later. So, let's see. Already answered that. What's your favorite cultural tradition? Either by what it means, that it's fun to do, or both. I may have mentioned this. I like sweat lodges and EPs. I don't know that I would describe it as fun, but I would describe it as worthwhile, fulfilling. If you ever have the opportunity to do it, I would suggest it. What's your favorite science fiction novel? I can't remember the name of it. The one about the box, where if you press the box, you get a reward, but somebody else gets punished. And they made a movie about it that was not a fantastic version, but that I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. It may actually be The Box. Let's see. What are your family's favorite holiday traditions? We open one gift on Christmas Eve. My wife puts peanuts in the stockings. I honestly don't know why. It's something her family's always done. I guess that's it. I think those are the only ones that are unique. If you leave a plate for Santa, what's on it? Oreos, of course. And this year, hand sanitizer. What's the coolest thing someone in your family requested for Christmas? My 6-year-old just told me that he wanted a werewolf robot. And this isn't like some toy. He just, like a legitimate werewolf robot. He would, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know how we're going to do that. If you had to choose a theme song, what would it be? Prayer of a Refugee. Are you a foodie? And if so, what do you and family love to cook for dinner? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy cooking, but I don't cook anything special. I have a wide variety of